Hello guys, welcome back. So in this video what I'm going to be doing is continuing the build of the hutch that I'm doing for my grandma. Now I get that a lot of you guys are probably tired of this project, and believe me, I'm trying to get this done as quick as possible. So to give you a quick kind of rundown of what the rest of this project is going to be looking like is in this video, and probably one, possibly two more videos after this one, I will then get into the staining and the finishing. After that, this thing is going to be done and I'm going to be able to get it out of my shop. This shop in here is pretty small. It fills up quickly with a lot of tools, and this big project that I'm working on takes up a lot of space. So I will be very happy once this thing is out of here. So essentially what I have right here is the hollow core for the second half. And all of this so far is made out of 3/4 plywood, and the back panel is 1/2-inch plywood. And what we're going to do in today's video is do the trim pieces and also an arch piece up here at the top. And those are going to be joined together using some classic woodworking joinery. And then we might also get working on the shelves too. So on the computer here you can see, I apologize for the screen, it's just the camera picks it up a little bit weird. But you can see here that I have these trim pieces here and the arch piece up here. And I have those pre-cut already, and there's going to be 3 shelves and then some crown molding at the top. So I already have the side pieces and the top arch piece all sanded down and dimensioned, and what we're going to do now is join these together with one of the most classic woodworking joints, a Mortise and Tenon. So you can see here on this piece of wood, I was able to get a perfectly symmetrical arch using a couple clamps on the sides and a really thin piece of wood. The nice thing about this is all you have to do is bend this piece and it makes a perfectly symmetrical arch. And all I had to do was just butt a pencil up against it and just trace it out. So as you just saw, I just cut out this arch piece over on the bandsaw. And a quick side note here about bandsaws. This bandsaw right here is a Craftsman 10-inch bandsaw. I got it a couple years ago when I was actually getting into woodworking, and it's probably going to be one of the first tools that I upgrade in the near future once I acquire enough money to get a decent one. And I guess a quick side note on bandsaws. I got this one specifically, for one, because it was on sale, and number two, because Craftsman is a good brand. It seemed like it'd work for me because, you know, right when you first start woodworking, you want to get to a project. You don't want to have to wait to acquire all the money in order to, you know, do a project. That doesn't really make sense. So I got this bandsaw because it was cheap and affordable. So I guess the thing about bandsaws is that in order for you to get a decent cut with it, you have to not only have a good blade, that is a large factor, but you also have to take into consideration the motor, how much power it has, the blade tensioning, the bearings, making sure those are set up right, and there's several different other factors that go into actually having a blade that is actually going to cut right. And for me, in my experience, this I've cut out perfectly fine, but it does leave a rough edge. And what I've found is that you have to have it set perfectly if you want to get no chatter in the blade. And that's something that I've found hard to achieve, and honestly I've just kind of gotten used to it. I'm like, okay, whenever I use the bandsaw after I cut something out, there's going to be a lot of sanding. But in the near future, I really do hope that I acquire a new bandsaw, one that's larger, more powerful, and one where I can actually put a decent blade on it. So when I was doing the layout for the mortise and tenon, there was one thing I overlooked, and that is I accidentally did the arch before I did the tenons on both sides. And the reason why that's an issue is because you can see here that this arch is not going to clamp very well into the vise, because the jaws are parallel, and that isn't going to clamp very well. So what I might end up doing is just hogging this out over on the table saw right there, raising it up to whatever distance I need, and then running it past like that. I think that's what I'll do in order to get the tenon, but I probably, in hindsight, should have done those first and then worried about the arch after that. But, you know, you live and learn. And before I run the final piece through, because I already have the arch on there, I really don't feel like messing this up. So I'm going to run a quick test piece through, and then I'll raise or lower the blade accordingly if it's, you know, too thin or too thick. And that way I can get a perfect fit the first time. Nice tenon, and I was able to do that over on the table saw and avoid having to do it all by hand, and it worked out pretty well. What I did was I went over on one side, and then because I could only get this side and that side, I then scooted it over onto the other side of the sled and then was able to get this side and that side, and that's how I was kind of able to do it, by shifting it around over there. So now what I need to do is create a notch right here, because in order for this to be flush up there, I have to notch out the tenon. And what I'm thinking is something like 3/4 of an inch down, and I'll just cut that off, and then it'll be a tenon like this wide right here. So I think that's the plan of what I'm going to do now, and then we'll work on the mortises and glue it up. today. I have been running around doing all sorts of stuff today. I've been in and out of the shop, and a lot of the shots that you've seen me do this entire video have been totally randomly spaced, and I've just been kind of coming back and forth in here. So I'm really happy with the progress that I got done today with the time that I was allotted out here. And as you saw over here, I was able to glue up this big piece, and that is the arch and the other trim pieces that are going to go on the second half of the hutch. And tomorrow what we're going to go ahead and do is attach it to the actual cabinet, and it's going to be a little bit tricky to align it right because I don't have all of the clamps in the world, and I'm gonna have to think overnight of how I want to clamp it up. I'm sure many of you guys can relate where you need to set a project aside and you think about something overnight, and then you come back to it the next day or the day after and you have a fresh idea of what you want to do and a game plan of how to attack it. That is what I'm doing with this. I'm a little bit hesitant on just gluing it on there because I'm afraid it's gonna look crooked because those pieces are so wide. Any movement in this direction is going to show drastically on the final project. So also, while I was gluing it up, I also put in a strip that is the same distance for the arch piece. I put that down below, and that way it's going to stay perfectly centered and it's not going to bow in like this. And it wasn't like this. If it was, I'd probably have to put a clamp on it to, you know, bring it into square. But I put that in there and it brought it out like that. Woo! Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun coming out here again. You know, this is one of the longest days that I've been out here. Even though I was running around doing all sorts of other stuff today, it felt good to come out here and bring you guys along with this. So that's basically going to be it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, I'd love to have you subscribe if you have not already. That's basically going to be it for this one, and I will see you guys in the next video.